What do you want in life? And the number one answer to the question is, I want to be happy. I just want to be happy. That's all I ask for. That's what I want in life. And in fact, most of what most people do is because they think it's going to make them happy. I invest in whatever I'm investing in. I buy whatever I buy. I wear what I wear. I think what I think. I do what I'm doing because I think it's going to bring me happiness. Now, the truth is, I don't know that many extremely, consistently and authentically happy people. And I think it's because people don't know what happiness is and they don't know how to achieve it. Life is actually easy. 3 steps. Identify the goal. Identify what you need to do in order to achieve the goal, and then invest in doing those things. So we have to do that with happiness as well. If happiness is a goal of yours, which it seems to be a goal of everyone, then you have to define what is happiness. And then you have to consciously work out, well, what's going to help me achieve that? What's going to take me towards that? And then you have to do what you need to do in order to achieve that. Very, very simple. In any area of life, you want to make a lot of money. If that's your goal, work out what you need to do in order to make a lot of money and commit yourself to do those things. You want to lose weight, you want to gain weight, whatever your goal is, work out what the goal is, work out what it takes to achieve it, and do that. Very simple. So we're going to talk about happiness now, because that's what everyone wants. They're very, very important. And there's a key. There's a key. If we only knew what the key was and we could implement the key, then we'd be happy. Now, why are most people not so authentically and consistently happy? They've just got the very wrong impression of what happiness is. Most people think that happiness is the feeling I get when things go my way. Why do you think that? Because things go your way, you get this feeling and you say, I'm so happy. Wow, you look so happy today. Why is that? Because my team won. Because my kids are doing well in school. Because it's nice weather. Because I bought a new car. Because something that I wanted happened. Therefore, I'm happy. And this is why people aren't authentically and consistently happy, because that's not what happiness is. And not only is that not what happiness is, that whole attitude is taking away from your happiness. Number one, can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. Your team's not always going to win. You're not always going to get people to like everything you say. You're not always going to get everything you want. You're not going to get the weather you want. You're not going to get the job you want. In fact, I'd say you don't get the majority of what you want in life. So if you're relying on the external world to match up to your expectations in order to be happy, you will never be happy, because either it won't, or even if it does, if your football team wins, is that going to make you a happy person? That's not going to make you a happy person. It's going to give you a temporary feeling of pleasure. And there's a very big difference between temporary pleasure and actual, true, authentic happiness. Completely, they're very, very different things. But people are selling out true, authentic happiness, deep, meaningful, real happiness, for these little moments of pleasure. If you get the car of your dreams, I'd be happy. You know what? I'd just be happy if I got the car of my dreams. Do you think you'd be a happy person? You wouldn't. You'd feel good for 10 days. But then you start thinking, well, someone else has got a nicer car. I could have got a different car. I hope no one scratches my car. It just doesn't work. So we're investing in things in order to make us happy. And not only are they not making us happy, they're taking away from our happiness, because you're just chasing. Complete slaves to the external world. I said to someone once, they were talking about their brother and stuff, and I said, is your brother happy? And they said, yeah, sometimes. And really true, authentic joy isn't a sometimes thing. It's not something you go in and out of. Real happiness is a state of mind. It's a way of being. In fact, in Judaism, the word for to be happy is besimcha. Besimcha, the word be means in. You're in it. It's something. It's the way I'm experiencing life. Happiness is the way I'm experiencing life, not something that happens to me sometimes. So where do we find real happiness? What's the key to true happiness that is available to everyone? The answer is positive attitude. If you have a positive attitude to life, if you have a positive perspective, if you see the world through healthy, positive eyes, then it doesn't matter so much what's happening around you. You'll deal with it. You'll be like, okay, it's fine. We'll get through that. We'll deal with it. If you're a optimist, what does an optimist say? An optimist says, you know what, everything's going to be great. Everything's going to work out fine. It's going to be great. And then when it doesn't work out so great, the optimist says, okay, but it could have been worse and it will be better next time. The pessimist, by the way, says, it's going to be terrible. we're going to fail, we're going to lose, it's going to be awful. And then when it's not awful, they say, yeah, but it could have been better, and it's going to be bad next time. Who is the realist, by the way? Pessimist or optimist? Well, on one level, neither is going to be good or bad. But who's going to be okay with whatever happens? The person who's got the positive attitude. I'll deal with it. We'll work it out. Why? Because I'm not relying on the external world to go a certain way in order for me to feel okay. I have an internal perspective on life, which is very positive. And if I have positivity, then I'll deal with difficult things. Once again, I'm not saying we're repressing emotions. Positive attitude doesn't mean toxic positivity. Yeah, that's great, everything's okay, that person died, it's fine. I'm not saying that. We spoke about it last time. I feel my pain, I cry when I need to feel my pain, and that's okay. But I don't be a victim to my pain. In fact, let's define positive attitude. What does it mean to have a positive attitude? I said in 8 words. Positive attitude in 8 words is this: focus on the good, grow from the bad. Focus on the good. I'm always looking for what's good. What's good in myself? We just had a whole class about self-respect and self-esteem. What's good about myself? I'm trying hard, I'm doing better. Most people are focusing on what's bad about themselves. That's not going to create happiness. What's good about myself? Focus on the good in yourself, in other people, in the situation. By the way, that's why we said it all really depends on how you feel about yourself. Because it's hard to focus on the good in other people and in the situation if you're not feeling good about yourself. So I focus on what's good. I'm going to look for the good. But I'm not going to ignore or repress the bad and say it's not bad. It is bad. And I'm going to cry. I'm going to feel my pain. But I'm not going to be a victim to the difficult pain and challenges in my life. I'm going to use them to grow. Focus on the good. Grow from the bad. I see the pain and the difficulty and the challenge in my life as an opportunity to become a greater person. Once again, that's not easy. And I'm not saying just snap out of it. It takes a lot of work and mindfulness and healing. I tell you, that's okay. But your attitude has to be one of focusing on the good, growing from the bad. Your attitude has to be one of positivity. I can do this. I believe in myself. We can create good things. As soon as you're saying, I can't do this, what's wrong with me, it's too difficult, you're just bringing difficulty into your life. You're creating the difficulty in your life. So really, sadness and happiness is at some point, by the way, I'm not, once again, belittling people's troubles, but at some point, you create it through how you are thinking. We have a choice. We can choose to be happy, or we can choose to be sad. We can choose to be upset, or we can choose to be okay. So we can actually start choosing. You can choose to be happy. Once again, if you're suffering from depression and trauma, I'm not belittling that. It takes extra work. But the first thing we have to understand is it's our responsibility to do the work we need in order to fix these things. However much difficulty it's going to take to do that, we have to do that. We have to invest in these things. So I said to my daughter, if you want to be sad, you can have these thoughts. And if you want to be happy, have these thoughts. And my daughter looked at me and she said, okay, let's choose to be happy, Abba. And I said, that's such a good choice. So we chose to focus on the good things. We focused on the good, and therefore we were happy. Making that choice is very difficult. It's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, but once we understand, it's actually up to me. It's up to me. I'm not a victim. I can change. I can make the right choices. I'm going to train myself to make the right choices. Then it's completely in our hands. Completely in our hands. Positive attitude. Focus on the good, grow from the bad. Where does your attitude to life come from? Let's say you're however old you are. You're 20 to 60, whatever, however old you are. You have a certain attitude to life. And it does change sometimes, by the way. People get hangry. I didn't have enough to eat today, so I have a bad attitude. But in general, you've got a basic baseline happiness, your level of happiness. In general, I'm a kind of happy person unless something goes wrong, or in general, I'm a very stressed, anxious person, and unless something goes right, I feel happy. So you have a certain attitude to life. Where did that attitude to life come from? Life. So really, it's 3 things. Now, people speak about this a lot. There are 3 things that have created who you are and your attitude to life. Number 1 is your nature. Some people are born just more chilled out and they're okay. Some people are born more prone to anger. So you're born with a nature, a makeup. Then there's your nurture. Your nurture, your childhood. How were you brought up? Did you have abusive parents? Did you have parents that spoiled you? Did you have great parents, supportive parents? You have a nurture. And then there's a third thing, people don't speak about it so much, it's significant events in your life. Because you could be both born with a good nature and good parents, but get bullied at school, and then so that affects your attitude. The voices in your head, which are creating your attitude, are basically implanted at quite a young age, and by the way, usually by your parents. The job of the parent is to give the child healthy messages to be saying. In fact, the child's voice in their head really comes from the parents mostly, and teachers and friends. But the parent's major job, we should give a whole parenting class, the number one job of the parent is to make sure that child is saying positive, healthy things to themselves. That's the voice you want to create in you. If, God forbid, your parents didn't do that to you, for you, then you have to learn to work with that voice. So you have your nature and your nurture and stuff that happened to you. 20 years old, you're 60 years old, and that's become your attitude to life. So at that point, you could just say, well, this is just my attitude. It's not my fault. I was born with it. You could say that, and I couldn't argue with you. But the secret here is that you can take responsibility to develop a positive attitude. You could either say, well, I was abused and this happened to me and you don't understand me and it's not fair, and if you were, you could say that and you're right. I'm sorry that happened to you. Or you could take responsibility and say, you know what? I'm going to work on developing a positive attitude, because your attitude to life is something that you can change. You're not a victim to your nature. You're not a victim to your nurture. You're not a victim to these things. By the way, you are a victim. I'm not saying it's your fault. You're a victim, but you don't have to play the victim. You don't have to be disempowered. You can say, I am. And by the way, lots of the greatest people I know are the people who overcame their nature, who overcame their nurture. They overcame it. And I have friends that say to me, well, my father was abusive and horrible, but despite that, in fact, one of them says, because of that, he's become the best father, because I'm not going to be a victim to those things. In the Torah, by the way, everything it says in the Torah, historical fact that happened, the Jews were in Egypt, and we left Egypt and the sea split, I believe that happened, but everything's got a deeper spiritual and psychological message. So what is Egypt? Egypt is slavery. It's slavery. And the word for Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim, which comes from the word mitzah, which means limitations and boundaries, which is your pain, is your ego, is your stuff that you've got. It also is related to the word tsar, which is suffering. Your suffering is coming from these mental boundaries that have been created, not your fault, by the way. There's external forces, there's Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and terrible things happen. So even once we left Egypt, what happened when we left Egypt? They've chased us, they followed us. Often when you leave an abusive situation, you're still in it, you're bringing it with you. So what happened? What does the Torah say? That they got real freedom? The sea split. But what's that really teaching us? It's teaching us that if you really want to be free of your nature and your nurture and your stuff, you have to change your nature. The sea turned from water into dry land, and that's how they became free. We have to learn to start working on ourselves and change our nature and overcome the difficulties we had in our life and deal with the pain and turn the pain into purpose. If I'm not for myself, who's going to be for me? It says in Ethics of Our Fathers, Im ein an li an mi li mi li. So being a victim and blaming other people, even though you're justified, is not helping. So at some point, and by the way, that's now, you should sit up straight and you should say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to take responsibility for healing, for working on my attitude, for becoming a more positive person. Take responsibility. And you can read blog posts how to become more positive, and you can do meditation and there's all different sorts of healing and somatic experiencing, very important things we can do. But if you want to be a happy person, we define happiness as a state of consistent contentment and vitality based on having a positive attitude to life. If you define happiness as the feeling I get when things go my way, you'll never be happy and you'll spend your whole life chasing things going your way. If you define happiness as a feeling of consistent contentment and vitality based on having a positive attitude, you will then hopefully spend your life investing on getting a more positive attitude to life. I'm going to work on my attitude. I'm going to change myself. This is worthwhile doing. Why is it worthwhile doing? Because it changes your whole life. And your attitude is how you're speaking to yourself, how you're speaking about other people. What are you focusing on? What are you looking for? You can train yourself to find the good. I always want to see what's good in this situation. And what you train yourself in, that's what you get good at. What you focus your attention and consciousness on, that becomes your experience of reality. So if you're going to be focusing on the negative, by the way, there were people on the trip and it was nice food and nice weather and we got the bus and the orphanage, everything was perfect, and they'd be like, yeah, but there's a cockroach in my room. Okay. I want an authentic experience of Thailand. just with no cockroaches, no mosquitoes. Okay. So if everything's going well, but you're focusing on the one thing that's not going well, that's going to be your experience. If everything's going badly, but you focus on the one thing that is going well, that's going to be your experience. So what you choose to focus on, that becomes your experience of reality. And I'm not saying to ignore, I'm not saying to repress the negative thing. First, I'm saying focus on the positive things, build up this vitality and this contentment based on focusing on the positive things, and then use the negative things to become greater, become more peaceful, calm, healthy. Nice? This is amazing. This is completely game-changing because it's in your hand. You can live a happy life. You can be poor and not good looking and not have the job of your dreams, and you can still be a very happy person. How do I know that? From the kids I worked with in the orphanage. They didn't have anything. Very strong positive attitude shift, a focus you can have in your life. The first one is to feel good about yourself. We spoke about that. There's a whole nother class. Find the recording, watch the class about self-love, self-respect, self-esteem, self-worth. Very important class. But the other most important attitude shift we can have, and you all know this by the way, and this is what the kids in the orphanage had, which we don't seem to have, and that is gratitude. Now you're not sitting there being like, oh, I never thought of that. You're like, yeah, I know that. Gratitude. These kids had immense gratitude. Spend your whole life needing something more in order to be happy. You'll never be happy. If you spend your life appreciating what you do have, wow, I have so much. Especially us. We got so much. We got so much. Literally, we're in the top 2% of privileged people on the face of the planet. You got to wake up in the morning, you got to be like, oh my goodness, again? I'm going to have breakfast again? But we wake up in the morning, we're like, oh, we're going to have the same breakfast, it's not fair, why me? Once again, I'm not belittling our problems. I'm not saying gratitude your way out of suffering. If you go through something very difficult, don't be like, well, just think about all the great things. That doesn't work. We spoke about that before. Feel your pain, cry, that's okay. But I'm talking about your general attitude to life. Are you focusing on what you don't have? And what you want? And what other people have? Or are you focusing on what you do have? It's a complete shift. So the person who's focusing on what they do have, they're just going to be a much happier person. And they'll do with much less. I'm happy with less, I don't need so much. It says in Ethics of Our Fathers, which is an ancient Jewish personal growth manual, it says, Ezehu Ashir, who is a rich person? Hasameach b'chelko, the person is happy with what they have. So if you've got someone who's got $10 million, but they're not happy with that, they want $20 million, then they're lacking, so they're not rich. Rich is I have what I need, I'm okay with what I have. So once we can take a few minutes to really appreciate, it's amazing, I've got legs, I've got eyes, I've got education. So there's a very big difference between acknowledging things that you should be grateful for and actually feeling gratitude. Actually feel, wow. Acknowledging, you could write a gratitude list. Well, I got legs and eyes and arms and things. What's going to happen is if you focus on the things you're grateful for, legs and eyes and arms, your mind is going to say, yeah, but you got a sore back. Okay, I hear that. Well, I have so much in my life. Yeah, but he's got more. Amazing. But we learn how to deal with that voice. To hear that voice and say, okay, thank you, but I'm just focusing on the good things at the moment. I'm going to focus on the good things. So how many moments of gratitude have you felt this week? How many moments did you stop and think to yourself, wow, amazing, I have so much, I have so much. So for most people, it's not that much. What you need in order to be happy is actually a positive attitude. You need gratitude, and that's in your hands. You can do that. How many moments this week did you say, well, if only I had this, and if I could have this? A lot more. It's a lot more. So we got to start retraining our thoughts, retraining our attitude to go into thinking about all the goodness I have in my life. So I was actually sitting in a Japanese temple on a mountain in Nepal. That sounds a bit funny. But there was a Japanese temple, a stupa, in Annapurna. It's actually in Pokhara. Annapurna is this beautiful mountain. The most dangerous mountain in the world to climb. I think 35% of people who try to get to the top of Annapurna actually die. I didn't try to get to the top, but I went to the base camp. Beautiful base camp. But opposite Annapurna, there's Pokhara, this little town. Opposite the lake is this Japanese stupa, white temple. And I was sitting there and I used to go to meditate. For an hour a day I would meditate there as the sun was rising. And I'd then see the beautiful surroundings. And suddenly one day I was just meditating and I realized there are only 3 things I need in my life in order to be happy. And if I just have these 3 things, I'll be consistently content and I'll be living with vitality. The number one thing was books. And by that I mean the ability to learn. The ability to learn and grow. Empowering books, The Power of Now and The Untethered Soul and Tony Robbins, whatever it is, empowering books so that I can inspire myself to grow. The second thing I need is exercise. As long as I can be healthy, because it's very hard to be happy if you're very unhealthy. Very difficult to be happy. By the way, someone with an immensely positive attitude, they could be happy. And so again, it's difficult, but I'll grow through this. But it's very hard. So as long as I can do some exercise and keep fit and strong and walk and breathe. And the third one, and the most important one, was meditation. Meditation, because we said that your happiness depends on your attitude to life. Your attitude to life depends on your thoughts. Your thoughts are going to depend on your ability to calm and control your mind. And meditation is the key to it. What meditation does, it actually takes you into a deeper place within yourself, a calmer place within yourself. And the calmer you are, and the less caught up you are in the external world, the more contentment you'll have, the more happy you'll be. The calmer you are, the more you can deal with life's challenges in a healthy way. You can deal with things in a better way. So I was sitting on this mountaintop, and I was like, oh my goodness, I just need these 3. And then I had another realization, as I thought to myself, I'll always have these 3 things. Even if I'm in solitary confinement, I'll have a book, I'll be able to do push-ups, and I'll be able to meditate. And at that moment, I had this kind of enlightenment experience of, it felt like some sort of salvation. I was like, I'm going to be okay. The less you need, the happier you will be. The less you want, the happier you will be. Who do you think's happier? The person who wants the car and then gets the car, or the person who says, I don't even want the car, I don't need the car so much? It's the person who doesn't have that desire. Because once again, if you have the desire, you're either not going to get it, which will be painful, or you'll get it, but you'll realize it hasn't actually filled me because it doesn't create my happiness. You get your perfect outfit for every occasion, and your bag matches your shoes. Is that going to make you a happy person? It's not going to make you happy, but it might make you happy for a bit. But it won't make you happy. It will just make you feel good for a little bit. But then your attitude will kick in again. Your thinking will kick in again. The word for happiness, as we said in Hebrew, is besimcha. Besimcha. You are in something. You are in simcha. You're in a state of positivity. The letters of the word besimcha also spell machshava. And machshava means thought. Your happiness in life and everything in life depends on how you are thinking, depends on your thoughts. So if you can be thinking in a healthy way, you can deal with whatever happens, developing this positive attitude. Who do you think is a happier person? Someone who's so self-centered all the time, or someone who's investing in other people, giving to other people? Rather than walking around saying, what's in it for me? What can I get from this? Why do we do that? Because we think we'll be happy when we get what we want. You could ask yourself, what can I do for other people? So it's really up to us. Our sages teach us that gratitude, focus on the good, focus on things you do have in your life. Sages teach us that learning to be more of a giver. Fulfillment and satisfaction and meaning in life really comes from going beyond yourself, not being so self-centered, not thinking, well, I need to get more, but thinking, what can I do to others? How can I expand myself? So the richest people, not the happiest people, the most beautiful people, not the happiest people, but the kindest people in the world, they're touching the lives of others, they're the most inspired, happy people. So that's another little shift we can start making in our life. We first have to work on self-respect and gratitude. Once we have self-esteem and gratitude and feel good about ourselves, then we can extend beyond ourselves and be there for other people, and that creates immense joy, immense fulfillment. And you know that, by the way, When you sit with your friend who's going through a hard time and you're just there for them, it makes you feel full. I'm full. I'm full by giving. We think I'm going to become full by receiving, but you'll never, because you've got an endless hole of desire. You think that you feed your desires, you're going to not have desire. I'll just have one more cigarette, I won't need another cigarette. I'll just do that one more time. You're just feeding the desire. And the more you're feeding the desire, the less satisfied you're going to be. But once you can say, you know what, I have what I need. I have stuff. Then you can reach beyond yourself. Then you start overflowing. Your joy starts overflowing. You start touching the lives of other people. There is, though, a deeper level of happiness. Our sages teach us that actually your natural state of being is happy. You are naturally happy until something goes wrong. And unfortunately, things go wrong very early on. But how do we know this? By the way, you look at babies. You look at really young babies. They're chill, they're cool. They're just like, whoa, what is that? Like, just everything's cool. And then what happens? They get a bit hungry. They get a bit hungry. They don't even know what hunger is. They just feel some pain. Something's got in their way of their natural experience of happiness. And then they cry. And do you know what you do when the baby cries because it's hungry? Feed the baby. So you feed the baby, it gets the bottle. What happens to the baby as soon as it gets the bottle? It's cool. It's like, great. Oh, cool. The baby's not lying there saying, why did it take them so long to give me the bottle? I'm not good enough. Why? My friends, I bet they have better bottles than me. The baby not doing that. Your own mind, your own negative thoughts, your own attitude is getting in the way of your natural state of being happy. I'm okay. Everything's cool. And then the baby is chilled and everything's nice and life is okay. And then something in the diaper and it doesn't feel nice. And he starts crying. Do you know what you do when the baby has a diaper? You change. So as soon as you change the baby diaper, what happens? It's like, whoa, amazing. Whoa. The baby's not sitting there being like, oh my goodness, that stank so much. I'm so embarrassed. I hope no one smelled that. What do people think of me? I'm going to lose it. The baby's not doing all that stuff. The baby's just like, okay, cool. And really, how do we access that place beyond the mind? We access the place beyond the mind through breathing. Oh my goodness, I need to give a class about breathing now. Through breathing. Because why? Your breathing takes you beyond the craziness of your mind. It takes you into a deeper place within yourself. It touches the core of your being. It gets you back into that pure, baby-like wonder of life. I come from London. How many days a year does the sun shine over the streets of London? 5, 20, 60. Well, the real answer to that question is 365 days a year. The sun is always shining. It's just that on 359 days a year, there are clouds in the way. But as soon as you take the clouds out the way, there's blue, shiny sky. You don't need to create the blue, sunny, shiny sky. You just need to get rid of the thing that's blocking it. So too with yourself. So too you with yourself. Your natural state of being is one of connection and joy and love and wholeness. You don't need to create that. You just need to remove the barrier. And the barrier to that is our own thinking, our own negativity. And we've got to learn to remove that barrier.